Okay, we're back live for the November 16th, 2022 Chenango County IDA Board of Directors meeting. We're in public session now. For those of you that didn't get to see the agenda, we went right into executive session. Now we're back in the public session. Agenda item number 2, the IDA mission statement. I will go ahead and read this today for sales benefit. Our mission is to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in the acquiring, construction, reconstruction, improving, maintaining, equipping, and furnishing industrial, manufacturing, warehousing, commercial, research, and recreation facilities, including industrial pollution control facilities, educational or cultural facilities, railroad facilities, and continuing care retirement communities, to provide financial assistance and thereby advance the job opportunities, health, general prosperity, and economic welfare of the people of the county of Chenango, and to improve their recreational opportunities, prosperity, and standard of living. So something, we didn't add that to the agenda, right?
No.
Okay, so part of the reason I read that mission statement today is Barb went to a pilot meeting the other day, and it was recommended to Barb that a lot of what we're doing are green energy projects, right, with the solar, the wind, so on and so forth. It was recommended that we add that into our mission statement, green energy as one of these commas. I'm not sure exactly where to add it, but I assume it would fit in here nicely next to like industrial manufacturing and warehousing. What I did is I asked Barb to ask Sal to rework this statement, adding the green energy into it. Sal, have you had a chance to do that yet?
No, because this is the first I heard of it,
Right,
Brian. But here's what I will tell you. I would put it then, Brian, right where he says here, research and recreation field, including industrial pollution, green energy solutions, control facilities, it would fit right there, right? Unless there's something more you want me to say than that.
No, I think
That's
we
the
just
first
got,
I've heard it, so.
I think that's a good spot for it.
So unless anybody's concerned about that, I mean, it seems to go there.
What I'd like to do is get a motion to add green energy into our mission statement at this time. So if I can get a motion to add the term.
I would say green energy solutions, right? So
Solutions.
that's like, that would be like that solar, wind, all that stuff, right? So is that okay with it? I don't know how specific you gotta be with these things, so.
So can I get a motion to add green energy solutions? Okay, second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, some of the missions themselves, that's actually, well, one of the things that's not mentioned here is job creation. And I always thought that was the entire premise of the idea to begin with. So
It does say job opportunities. Would you like to
Thereby
talk?
advance the job opportunity.
Yeah.
all right,
And so, Michael, I like this discussion and I appreciate it, because frankly, honestly, as I come in here and try to understand the roles of the different organizations, that workforce development conversation in this world currently falls under the development Chenango team, right? That's under Jenna's work. So there's a workforce development. I haven't done it yet, but I'm trying to synthesize, I've shared it with some of the executive board, the 4 strategies that I think we should focus on. Workforce development is a primary strategy, right? That's definitely one of the ones that, and I don't know where to put it in the mission statement of it. So I promise you that that's something that I'm trying to do. When I tell you guys I'm going out to talk to the schools, for instance, I've met with Scott Ryan and said, hey, how can we connect Raymond and Alvagen and Unison and any other place that's a service organization? All the towns have jobs that don't require college educations. I'd like to catch those kids. That's job development. Where does that go? IDA or development Chenango? I get confused, but I know it falls in this world. So I'm open to, Brian, wherever we think it should go.
So I like Mike's recommendation, and I like the term you just used with workforce development. So I think job opportunities combined with workforce development would satisfy.
all right. it's a balance, because what you're doing is you're adding green energy. Green energy itself is a good thing, but I'm not sure how much local job creation, how it benefits the folks in our county. Can green energy drive a Raymond, a manufacturing facility? I mean, so what we're looking at, and what I'm bringing up, is the compromise of saying, well, if you're going to go with the green energy approach, which I think long-term does not represent job opportunities.
Correct.
Because within Chenango County, and really there are a minimal workforce to maintain. And if we're going to go with that, then we have to emphasize job opportunities on the other side. That would be my compromise to go with this.
I agree with you. I agree
I'm
with you
finding that the
100%.
emphasis is we're getting watered down, and our efforts it's great intentions, but if we don't make that change, then we're straying from our mission statement.
I agree.
I'm totally
100%.
comfortable with that. And again, Michael, I want to make sure that I'm clear, because I haven't done it yet, but underneath that workforce development, underneath the different things that we have to do within the IDA, which is, I put down that is the role of Commerce Chenango, is to be a catalyst for economic development in our area, right? Which is different than workforce development work and trying to connect the schools. But underneath those are specific tactical plans, and trying to pursue green energy sources here is not a priority. We'll help people that want to come to us with a pilot, that own land, and say, hey, we need some help figuring out how to do this because we want to be represented. But I'm going to try to focus on creating jobs and keeping people in this area and helping businesses that want to do that.
Right.
That's exactly what I want to come to you for, is to say, where should I be focused? And if it's not on green energy, if it's in trying to help people figure out how to identify workers at Bailey Lumber and stuff like that, that's the stuff that I want to focus on, really.
Do you know, maybe Mark Barman, when this was developed, the IDA mission statement, do you compare it with other county mission statements around us? Like Delaware,
I did
Madison?
The reason why I brought this up is when Jenna and I went to the IDA meeting in Utica, the ABO, they had a lawyer there, and he was saying what they do is they look at our mission statement and look at the pilots that we are doing, and they need to match. And we don't have green energy, and since we are doing green energy, they would say, well, wait a minute, your mission statement doesn't say anything about, so they want it to match. So this could actually be, maybe in a few years, when some other thing comes along, it is not addressed in the mission statement, that would also have to be changed. He said, so make sure your mission statement matches the pilot programs that you are doing.
I'm not a lawyer, but I used to be a sales guy, but I could argue that industrial pollution fits that pretty good. And that I would say like workforce development would be a more appropriate change to this, but I'll do whatever the board wants.
Well, so what I just want, you could pull up the mission statements for the other IDAs surrounding this and just see what they've got in their
Yeah, I
mission
can,
statements different than what we have, and then see instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, first just look to see what they're doing. If they've got it in it, fine, and maybe it's something we could use. If it's not, then like you said, change it with the addition of.
Right. I can gather some of those mission statements from other IDAs and compare and rework the wording to kind of,
Where would we, but I think we should put workforce development in here. Where would we put that? We can figure-
Right after job opportunities.
yeah. That's what I would do.
So I would put, job opportunities, comma, job growth, comma, job, workforce development. But as I look through this too, I mean, we just got done having a conversation about an agricultural company that we're working with and hoping to develop and help them grow, and agricultural's not in here either.
Yeah, that ought to be up there with the industrial, Brian, and the
Yeah.
others. I think you're right.
So since we did have a first and a second on the original motion, we need to vote that down, and then go back to the drawing board. Do you want to write up something?
Yes.
And then we'll make a motion to approve it at the next
Yes,
meeting?
I'll
So-
submit something to you, and then you guys can help me wordsmith it from there. But I know we want to have an agricultural mention, we want to mention something around workforce development, and we want to phrase whatever industrial pollution is in a way that talks about green energy resources. So however we want to do that, but I know those three things, and we'll get this thing I'll have Audrey help us, our marketing director, create the right statement, and I'll get it to you guys, okay?
So we gotta go ahead and vote.
Blanchard, no.
Give it them.
Corey, no.
Burton, no.
Should we have retention as part of that too?
You know what? Yeah, let's add it in. I mean, if we're gonna rework this thing, retention's huge as well, right? Right? Because it's also part of the ask. When somebody comes to us for a pilot, how many jobs are you retaining? How many jobs are you going to increase? Da-da-da.
And so, Brian, this is helpful for me, right? Because again, I told you guys, trying to get focused on what to be doing is what I'm trying to figure out. The mission statement's helping that, right? Because if it doesn't support the mission statement, shouldn't be doing it. So here's another question for you then. I've got Jenna under the development Chenango umbrella, working with the youth bureau here because, the pool house at Kurt Beyer is falling apart. The skating rink up at Weiler Park, the first thing you see when you come from the north of town is a mess and he needs some help. That falls under here too, though, when you talk about recreational facilities, and he's doing work on a bump park, trying to take over some land that had all that, those tent encampments with all that stuff being dumped down by the river. I'm saying, hey, we can help you because that falls under different mission statements. So I don't know whether to report that under the IDA work, because it's not, but we're doing a lot of stuff there because somebody's calling me saying, hey, can you help us? Or under Jenna's umbrella.
So essentially, it wouldn't be IDA involved.
Okay.
Unless they came to us for funding. So let's say that piece of property where they want to put the pump park, let's say the city wanted to charge money for that. And they had to have a buyout.
Okay.
And they came to us and said, look, we can't buy it. Would you be willing to invest in it, hold the note, and then we paid off over time, much like we did with everything Bagley. Then it would become an IDA thing. Or if they were going to create a facility of some sort that would create jobs or have equipment that was going to be purchased, and they needed a pilot for that.
Okay, they need funding or something. So that helps me a great deal. So it's if they need the IDA for financial support, and it touches these umbrellas. But if we can get private funding, which is what I'm trying to do, or grants, because it's all kinds of money that's available to do that, it would fall more into the development Chenango umbrella. Thank you. That's helpful. That's very, very helpful.
Right on the nose.
Very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, good. So we'll come back to the next meeting with a worked up new statement for voting. Okay. Hopefully everybody had a chance to look through the minutes of October 19, 2022. Need a motion to approve those minutes. Okay, need a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond,
Give it abstain, because I wasn't here at the meeting.
Corey's doing the same.
All right, Bert and I. Barely had a quorum. All right. Yeah. Bills and invoices. Oh, sorry. I almost forgot you, Kathy. Jeez. We'll go on to the reading of the presentation of the financial report from October 31st, 2022, as presented by Kathy Jill.
Okay, so the first page shows the checking account has increased with the sale to Protel. So that has increased the net activity to a positive number. There are no accounts receivable. And nothing else new has changed the financials.
Brian, can you explain to me, because I've had Kathy Joe and our team review every subscription, every new thing that's occurred in the last 24 months before, because I want to understand where we're spending money on SG&A things, right? Railroads of New York, nobody could quite explain to me what that was and why we were doing that. And I'd like to know why.
Yeah, so we stayed part of that member group because we actually own a railroad. In essence, it's the land under it is ours. The tracks belong to NYS&W, and the air above it is ours. So we subscribe to it almost a little bit as a courtesy.
Okay.
because of the project that we had with the railroad, the almost $5 million project. We were going to meetings, there were some benefits offered, helped the person that sat in your chair over the last 10 years understand railroad better.
Okay.
Get some education on that. Also provided some connections
Okay.
at the time. I think that, what was it, like $50 a year or something like that?
It's, $650.
$650. So it's almost like joining a chamber,
Okay.
but for railroads. So that's why we did that. And
Okay.
continue to do it, because again, we do still own land that is a railroad.
It
And
was-
do we believe that it adds value for the IDA to do that, Brian? Like, what would again, we belong to a bunch of these different things. I'm trying to say, okay, well, I went to Binghamton for a 2.5-hour meeting with a bunch of these executive directors as part of a nonprofit. And I'm like, none of them were from Chenango County. None of them could relate to what I was trying to do. And I said, what am I doing here? So I don't care. This board says this makes sense for us to be in this. We get this benefit. I'm in. I mean, I'm not questioning.
It was sold to us by Steve when he was doing it, because of the fact that since the railroad's not really functioning, it was hoped that he could communicate with people at this kind of a meeting and find out the needs and stuff for a railroad and try to promote ours and helping the railroad itself.
Yeah, and the onus was on us too, to help find people along the railroad that were willing to use it.
Okay.
So it was a networking opportunity at the time. According to NYS&W and the letter I got, they are planning on still putting that back in service based upon that letter, and they didn't specifically say what or how the usage would be. But I will say that when we were up visiting the Chobani plant a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago, they were working on the railroad. There
Yeah,
was,
there's been guys there off and on the last month.
it looks like they've been working on the bridge down on the right-hand side of Cary Bioscience.
So right now,
Yeah.
it does, we're paid now, so that's fine. I'm glad it's adopted in the budget. It's paid to see what kind of potential opportunities we might be able to develop with the railroad in our backyard.
Yeah.
And so these people might be able to help us, tell us how to do that. Like, I know I've done the ride the rails thing over in Cooperstown and stuff like that. I know that, that's something they do awful. I don't know if that's ever possible as part of the Greenway, the railroad runs, but I get what you're saying, and I'm just questioning everything right now to say, is there a justification?
Well, as late as last April, is that when they put the kibosh on that? Probably. We were working with a company that was gonna do a rail strip.
Okay,
Yeah, and due to some bridge issues on the railroad, they couldn't do it the way they wanted to go.
gotcha.
My understanding is those guys are still kind of looking into it, but going a different route. So, yeah, it's
I got it. I thought I wanted to
so
know.
we're still working with people looking to do something with that railroad, so I don't think it hurts at this point.
We've still got 2 bridges with issues, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So nothing's gonna happen until
those are
something
fixed.
is,
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. I just wanted to know, we'll come back next year and decide before we freeze the budget again, if it makes sense for us.
Well, I would think too, if you have representation going to that meeting and you don't feel that it's really worthwhile, then you could come back and report to us and say it's not worthwhile.
I'll let you guys know.
Yeah.
If we can make something out, I think we should be focusing on efforts wherever it's gonna return something for us. That's not a lot of money, so if there's light at the end of that tunnel, forgive the metaphor, then we'll pursue it. If not, we'll stop paying that money.
That's good. Kathy Jo, back to you.
Okay. On the statement of activities, the contracted services was adjusted with a transition of no CEO to the current CEO. And then, we'll still need to receive, utilities reimbursement for Protel on the expenses. So that will change the year-to-date for the airport utilities. That number should be down. So those would be the only things to highlight.
And Kathy Jo, if I'm reading this correctly, we're 58,000 better in budget right now?
Yes,
And that includes a $153,000 expenditure that we didn't expect.
correct.
Good. Any questions on the financials? Need a motion to approve the financials?
I made a move to approve.
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll vote.
Blanchard, aye.
Raymond,
Gibbon.
Corey, aye.
Bert and I. Okay. Bills and invoices. Need a motion to approve bills and invoices.
Second, Corey second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye.
Raymond,
Gibbon.
Corey, aye.
Bert and I.
Actually, the bills are still on your desk. I forgot to get them yesterday. Can Jenna go run and get them so these guys can sign them?
Sure, of course.
Okay, thank you. They're in a green folder. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to pilots, Smyrna.
We've got the pilot application. I did, Brian had noted that on page 11, that is to be filled out by us. And I've gotten some information, you know, the top part I did fill out. As far as the percentage, that is something that we're gonna have to, I'm not sure on that.
Okay, so we're all kind of in the learning phase here, I guess, Barb and myself.
Sorry.
Quite specifically, we're trying to go through this process. Carrie had gotten pretty good at it. You know, it was out of our hands till the end product, right? But one of the things that came out of our audit is making sure everything was filled out completely and entirely. So besides page 11, on page 3, there was a section that asked about county, city, village, school taxes that also was left blank. And it said that if you don't have this information, you can fill in the tax map number. We pushed back and said, well, this is public knowledge. You know, you got the tax map number, go back and get those numbers for us, okay? The second thing on this is our job apparently to fill out this page 11 that steps out what the pile will look like over time, right? And I sent Barb a example of another one from another IDA within the state, and it happened to be a solar project, so it was perfect. One of the things that not only came out of looking at that pilot project, but also her pilot meeting that she went to for the IDA the other day, is that we just aren't charging enough. You know, the pilot project that we looked at, the example, they were getting $8,000 a megawatt. We're getting 2 and 3, right? Based upon whether it was wholesale or if it was direct sale. So I think one thing we have to take into consideration and have a discussion about before we fill this in is, do we want to look at increasing that, and what would be the right dollar amount, and how do we come up with that? I mean, none of us are really in the solar world, but do we go somewhere in the middle? You know?
I think we get all of Steve at the county, our tax guy at the county, and he's really into this through his job through the county, and his one through Madison County as well. So he's always said that we weren't doing enough there. So I think he would be a good resource for us to talk to.
Okay, so maybe get a meeting with Steve, see what his recommendation is. And unfortunately, it's probably, we're probably gonna be a little slower on this one than they may like, but
It's more important to do it right.
it is, and it's our first one since our audit. We've also, so one of the things that came out of the audit too was showing what's the dollar benefit compared to what taxes were being paid on that property now? What's gonna be paid with the pilot? That's not in here, okay? And that's our fault. We didn't send anything with it to do it, so we're gonna push back and say, all right, we need this too, at this point.
Yeah, it's called the cost benefit
Cost benefit,
analysis.
yeah.
And I think we've done it on some projects before, but not on all of them.
We really only had the verbal discussion. It's like the first question asked when they come present, it's, what are you gonna pay versus what's being paid now? But we've never actually physically gotten it on paper. And that's what the audit said we needed to do, so.
Right, and Sal, you should know that Steve Harris has been involved early on, and I think somehow he moved out of the conversation, so it'd be great to get him back in, and he's an excellent source.
I'm sorry, he stopped me yesterday, and so I happen to know him. I coached his daughter a long time ago, Carly. I'll go see him because I don't understand any of this. So I feel I'm catching up. Like when you said, I didn't even know what that payment in lieu of taxes until last week. So I will go see him because I could tell he had some concern when he came to me and said, I really like to get back on your radar. I know him. I know his wife. I know his family. I should be able to, I think, work with him. So whatever the issues are, he's a nice man. So we had a good relationship. I don't know, I could tell it was a strained relationship.
He's an asset, so.
Good. I find that everywhere I go, people want to just help. So I'm going to get him to help me.
We're a county organization. So, working with other county entities should be.
Yeah, it was awesome. Bill Crane, and he could not have been nicer yet when I saw them.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna follow with both of them and get a meeting like right after Thanksgiving. Right? I'm trying to get caught up on all this stuff because I don't understand these spots. I'm hoping this person, Steve, or somebody from Steuben County can tell us, is there a formula for how you do this? Is it by acre? Is it by wattage? Is it by, I don't know. There must be a formula.
It's by wattage, but what that dollar amount is, it's always, because this is new. This is still new, but now that they've popped up everywhere, there's got to be some standard somewhere, and I think we start right here.
And so as I try to prioritize things like that, so we want to get this ironed out by first of the year for all these leases? Is that what we're trying to do?
So
are they up now? Are they?
I would assume that their hope was we were going to vote and approve this today.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
Okay, so by next month, you'd like to vote on, by our next meeting, you want to vote on.
I would like to have a complete application with all the proper knowledge, have a discussion, and potentially approve the application.
So could you guys advise me then the right people to have in the room at one time, so we're not chasing a bunch of them? It's Steve Harris, and who else? Should I get together and say, let's get this all ironed out, I'll come to them?
I would start with Steve Harris, because really it's us getting page 11 filled out using appropriate numbers now based upon experience.
Okay,
The rest of it's up to them.
okay,
I did get the numbers. I do have the assessment roll, final assessment roll, the county taxes and the village taxes and the school taxes. I've got copies of all of the tax bills, or the tax bills.
So then all we're really waiting for
So I
from them
do
is the
have-
cost benefit analysis.
Right, so, so on page 11, that bottom part is what we need to figure out. I've got all the other numbers.
Right, and they can't put that together until we get page 11 done.
Right, so we need
I've
to figure
got
that out.
one, I meet with Stan Folds on Friday, that's my only meeting on Friday, so I can, if Steve has got any room, I'll go see him Friday. Get it fixed.
And then what we'll have to do at the next meeting too is we'll complete page 15, which is IDA stuff. It's just a quick questionnaire. And then hopefully get an approval then for them. But
If we can get things ironed out with Steve, Ryan, and get 11 filled out and any other obligations we have, is there a way to call like this group together remotely to vote on it and get it?
no, because the state of emergency is over, we no longer do
I
things
wasn't involved.
remotely. But it is possible, and it's not unheard of for us to have us come for 15 minutes
Okay.
to vote on something.
Is it important enough to do before our next meeting, or should I, because I'm prioritize?
So that onus is gonna be on you,
Okay,
to work with them, to find out, what their timeline is. If the start of January, if they can wait until January.
but it's not a priority for the IDA is what I'm asking about. It's not something. we're
Unfortunately,
urgently
it's,
trying to do. Say it again?
We got as much time as we want, honestly.
I'll-
And
I mean, I would hate
I
to
think
rush
we should
this
take our
and
time.
create deadlines when it's really not necessary. And not to get into the weeds too much, but another thing you might want to put in the back of your mind is the duration of these projects, which I think was not, it's not discussed enough. How long are these projects good for? How long will they exist?
How long do the pilots stay in effect?
Well, how long will the actual physical structures that
Oh, okay.
we're creating a pilot on will be there? And I know that there are different formulas for that too.
Oh, there is, I didn't know that. So
Well,
they're
we
not
just check
permanent
with Steve,
structures.
it's more of his, you know,
Okay.
he'll,
These
He's the best
parents had
source.
mentioned to me that, doing these 30-year pilots for these things is way too long. He says, because a lot of times the solar panels don't even last that long. So that's
gonna-
something we need to discuss, is how long we should have these pilots go.
So why don't you meet with Steve Harris, because there's no guarantee that you'll get a meeting on Friday with him.
So, but there's no urgency, so as long as I'm gonna take Michael's counsel, I'm gonna do it right, I'll get with him and just say what should be in here, and not try to rush and get something in. I didn't know if there was urgency, because you said they were hoping we would vote
There may
on it.
be some, they may lose incentives at some period of time.
I'll reach out to them, I'll make it a priority, reach out to them and say, we're trying to do this right,
That
we're
was the
concerned at our board
first couple
level.
we did.
So why don't you tell me who to reach out to from there, and I'll call them today or tomorrow, and then we'll be able, just make sure I get their number, I'll call them, and then I'll come back to you guys. with
It
that.
almost sounds like from reading through the application, though, this project goes forward with or without the pilot too. So I don't know if there's, I know with the first couple, they literally had to break ground by year's end in order to get the tax benefits. So, if they're not dependent upon the pilot for the project, they can still do that,
Okay.
so. Those would be the questions you want to ask.
Of the people doing the pilot, so Bob, I need a meeting with them and with Steve, if you could help me get that.
Yeah, I'll get you the contact.
That would be great. As soon as we can, I'd like to meet with both of them and to talk to them, but not to come back until I've had a chance to sit with Steve, and then I'll go back to them again after we've completed the paperwork to make sure we've done it right. We'll wait till we advise.
Good. Norbit Solar,
There's nothing to report,
Perfect.
they're still waiting.
inquiry for a new solar project.
I guess, Hidden Springs contacted Sale about possibly doing a solar project. And I gave Sales through contacts for, because they've got to go through, a solar manufacturer,
Krista called and we just gave her.
Right,
names of some of the
and so we
people
just
that have
gave her-
pilots here.
some of that, so. that's good.
Okay, moving on to old business, IDA property update. Obviously, Earl B. Clark, we already had a conversation with, 5 to 7 Scott Street, Cambridge.
I have been in contact with Laura Shu from Coughlin and Gerhart. The last contact the other day was that they've attached a contract of sale signed by the buyer. I gave it to Brian to look over.
Yep.
I have the original here for you to sign if that's what you want to do. And they have ordered a 40-year abstract and title. So they're going to be waiting on that.
They gave us $1,000 deposit for the property. The one
Yes.
thing they did ask is because winter's coming, obviously, they've asked if they could get into the building to start cleaning it up. I asked for insurance binder and hold harmless.
Yes, and Laura is working on that to make sure that the insurance, we can get the insurance
Yeah,
finance from them, but the other part of it, she's gonna work on and get something, I haven't received that as yet.
Does anybody have a problem with them going in to start cleaning up as long as we get those two things? No, good. Anybody have a problem?
That's in the works.
Do we probably need a motion for me to sign that?
Probably, that would probably be a
Yeah.
good idea.
Can I I need a motion to sign a contract? Says contract. Need a second? Yeah. Any discussion?
sorry, what's the exact contract about? Is it just for the,
Yes, for the sale of that.
For the sale of it.
The old
Okay.
cast
Yes.
room.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah. We didn't decide to do some lease installment.
I learned something today. We'll never do that.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Blanchard, aye. Raymond, aye.
Given that.
Corey, aye.
Okay. I'll sign that after the meeting.
Yep.
And 5 Walnut Street.
Yeah, I'm gonna be meeting with the assessor, Bailey Ward, and see about, the property tax exemption form. Because I believe we're entitled to that, right, because we own it? Or is that not something that I should pursue?
No, you should definitely pursue it.
Okay,
Uh,
gotcha.
Even if we have to even if they're willing to give us a pilot, I think we'd be on board for that too. We never want to not help out a community in
Right,
some way.
okay. All right, so, I'll
Yeah,
talk
just
with
see
her
what's on the
and
table or what the
see.
possibilities are there.
All right, yeah, I can do that. And I wanted to let you guys know with that too. Matthias stopped by yesterday to make his first payment, and he also gave me the security deposit as well. And he said everything is going really well. And today he's hoping to start producing bagels in there. They're not fully up to speed as of yet because they're still waiting on some equipment. But they're hoping within 3 weeks to be fully functional and producing. So,
Once he's up and running and there's new news that, increase in production and distribution, I think that's a win for us.
Right.
I'd like to look into potentially not only bringing him back to kind of say how things are going and whatnot, but also maybe getting local media involved in it
yeah,
as well.
Sam had wanted to do kind of like a highlight on our website, an IDA project.
Yeah.
So I figured this one would be a good one. I asked Matthias to kind of give me some background, and I don't know that much about their business, and, so I want to make sure that it's, good and accurate. And then I'll be working with Audrey to get something written up so that we can highlight them on our website.
Great.
What I asked, I go back the last 2 years and look at all the work that you've done to get places back on the tax rolls, figure out how to create some type of communication piece that we can create a link to, and then disseminate it to our members, to our towns, and say, what else is out there like this, right? To try to create energy around it, because again, I think people aren't, as a lifelong, aren't aware of all the things that you're doing to help these communities. And I think the more people know about it, the more people will ask for it.
Yep.
So that's what we're trying to do.
I have a bagel question. Are
Bagel?
they producing now? Are they still working over in city
Yes,
and they're
they're
baking?
still
So
working,
there's
yeah,
no, I know they're in transition,
right, yeah, so they're trying to not
but
disrupt
they're
production.
still providing customers.
Right,
bagels. Okay.
yes, they are, yeah, and they are not going to be, it's not like they're gonna have customers coming to that facility, they don't do that, they, outsource it.
Well, and I think in addition to the IDA work and socializing that within our town, we should, when they're ready to go and pop and go open, the chamber should be over there and Audrey should be over there broadcasting that, and talking about that and helping them celebrate that. So I think that those are opportunities that, I talked to the people from Furnette's Auto that are gonna open up the donut shop, and they're ready to open up the donut shop. I think those are places we should be talking about.
Living Honey.
Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, and, I talked to Audrey a little bit about that yesterday, so we'll get that worked out.
Utah policy?
At your request, I forwarded the UTEP policy that, I kind of came up with to Alan Zimmerman, our auditor. And he came back and he said, well, he can't speak for the legal language. It looks like we've addressed all the concerns that they had, and especially with the standard tax abatement schedule. And he said it appears we did a good job researching with examples and that sort of stuff. So as far as he's concerned, we addressed all the issues that they want. Now we just got to make sure that those percentages, and numbers, all the numbers in there are correct and what we want to do. And that might kind of be something maybe Sue Harris when we have that.
You know, when you're having that meeting, have
Right,
them take a
and
look
have
at
them
it.
take a look at that and
Yep.
just make sure,
And then we
Right,
could
we
vote
like-
to approve that hopefully in
Right.
December.
yeah, we'll try and get that ready to approve, so.
Yep. Nice job, by the way.
Yes.
I know you said us and we, but that was you.
Thanks.
Thank Okay. New business, insurance proposal. I think you remember I hope you remember that at the end of the last meeting, I told you I was meeting with our insurance representative to discuss the fact that our insurance has gotten pretty expensive and to find out why. Well, the vast majority of our cost of our insurance was at airport building. So attached to your packet, on the last page 11, it gives a breakdown of, where all the expenditures are when it comes to premiums. So as you see the expiring premium, that's really what we paid in 2021 and 22. The second column is what we'd be paying anew, okay? The first line says package, property liability and auto. Between 7,500 and 8,000 of that is the airport building. So I have asked them to remove that. I got confirmation that it was removed from our insurance because we don't own it. We don't need insurance on it. So it'll prorate. We should be getting a refund check.
Good.
For a significant amount. The new part of this is the 3338, which is business owners Bainbridge location. Because we own the property in Bainbridge still, the Begley, that's still on there. Also, when we sell Cascoons and North Norwich, we should also see a decrease in that property. The other things, are liability stuff. We also have insurance for directors, board of directors. So, okay. So this number will come down significantly, but it was really due to the liability of owning a large manufacturing property. Okay. Any other information on that? I think that's something we got to keep an eye on year over year. Maybe next year, we'll have Dave Grady come in and present again to everybody. Okay. Chobani Norwich facility.
Yeah, I don't know, Brian, we toured that 3 weeks ago now, we got a call, and Brian got a call from Kathy Christopherson, we toured that. And it's a huge facility, they would like to give it to us essentially, and I think they would give it to us. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, $1 million a year just to keep the place up and running empty. So,
Approximately, yeah.
Approximately, $1 million a year, and $38,000 a year in taxes that they pay. So the idea of taking that on without a huge number of tenants, that's 45 acres in the floodplain that they're planted right now with corn. It will be hard to develop because it's in the floodplain according to Shane. It has a beautiful facility that could be used by BOCES. We know Martha would love to use the one main building that Brian and I met. It's set up like a factory and a lab. It's a school, right? But I mean, it'd be like it's a big school. It's set up beautifully for that. It probably has, if I was going to estimate, 200 classroom type of rooms in it that were offices. It'd be great if we could figure out what to do with it, but boy, it's a lot. The boiler is old. It can't ever be shut down and be restarted. There's just so many complicated things. They want to avoid putting it in mothballs because once it's in, getting it out will be very, very difficult. But boy, it would take a comprehensive plan to take that thing on and figure out what we could do with that. As a new guy on the block, I was a little daunted by saying, wow, could we really? It's more square footage. You could fit all of ACO inside that place and still have plenty of room left over.
And there's a lot of ancillary buildings that,
Right.
again, you look at it, you walk around, you tour that facility. I've looked at that facility for 50 years, driving down Route 12 or over 320. I never realized how enormous.
Enormous.
I mean, I even dropped my wife off to work there from time to time, and it didn't feel that big until you go inside and then you get a tour of all the outbuildings. It is massive. In my opinion, it would make a great industrial park
Yeah.
if we could find somebody that was willing to invest in the property and manage the property and then go find tenants. There's open warehousing that's, with loading docks, that's all set up, ready to go. There's climate control, there's non-climate control, there's a welding shop. So the opportunities are endless. If we had an educational group that was looking to put a STEM program in there, it'd be perfect for that. I mean, you look in the rooms and they look like science labs. They've got the Iowa station. It's almost turnkey for a STEM program. Anybody that's looking for warehousing expansion, perfect fit. It's just enormous. So at the end of the meeting, really our thought process, and DCC was involved as well, is it's not something we could take on, right? But we would really like that this property stay on the tax roll. So we'd like a private buyer, not a not-for-profit owner. Not only do they pay taxes to the town of Norwich, but they also pay taxes to the town of North Norwich. Matter of fact, they kind of stood me on the line. My right foot was in Norwich, my left foot was in North Norwich. So you're talking about two entities losing taxes if a non-taxable entity took it over. So our thought process when we left is, let us help you. When you go public, which they obviously have, there's a for sale sign out front. When you go public with looking to move this property, let us help champion it for you. Let us help be a catalyst. Let us help find potential partners to look at this facility. So that's what that's where we left it, is we'll help. We want this building not to sit empty either. But it's massive.
And I know, and related, and Taylor, I happen to know that Golden's is looking for some extra space, and I'd love to get up and talk to Matt and Mark Golden. I know Mark pretty well. If you could help facilitate a conversation, I know Mark isn't always there now and stuff like that, but I'd love to come and sit with you and Matt and talk about how I can help Golden's, but if that's an opportunity, it's public now, so they're a logical person we thought about, but I think you could fit all of Golden's and everything else inside of just one building over there. But is there ways we could utilize part of it? I don't know. If we could at least get some interest in it and people talking about it again, maybe it helps, so.
Yeah, and I think we agreed to list it on our retail site for them too, if they wanted us to do that. But again, it's got an opportunity for enormous job growth with multiple different facets. I mean, even the kitchen's brand new. So if you had somebody looking to get a catering business off the ground, perfect. But it's not something that we're not big enough to manage the property. And that's really what you need is a conglomeration to manage the property if you were going to split it up and do incubators.
Takes 10 full-time people just to keep it clean.
I know at the county, they have an expression, sometimes you can't afford free.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But truly grateful for the opportunity to look at it and have the conversation. And again, it's, we all said, look, if you've got somebody that needs help, whether it be in a pilot program or something like that, send them our way too. We'll see what we can do for them to make it feasible.
I know Martha wants to talk to them. She couldn't come today. But I talked to her a little bit this week. I know she'd like to meet with them now that it's public and see what the possibilities are. But again, I think when she tours it, she'll see it's just massive.
Is it clean? Is it a clean building? Because it was Woods Corner at one time, right? Isn't it set up for that type of stability tests and things like that? Is that what their purpose was?
They thought they were going to originally create their second production facility there. Before they went to Idaho, they were going to build there as a second production facility, but they couldn't get enough milk So now he bought that, I think he bought it for $1 million. They were pretty forthright about it.
So it's more than just a warehouse.
Oh,
Oh,
God,
it's,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's a three-story laboratory, like where, like, you could
it's a
literally.
campus.
A campus,
It's
yeah. I
literally-
mean, like,
Like, we
it's
walked in
unreal.
one area and the first thing we thought, because it has an exterior exit and entrance to it, is this make a great daycare.
Yeah.
Look at this space. It's a
Yeah,
perfect
perfect.
daycare. You know, there was a call center that was set up there.
Yeah, perfect place for that.
Again,
Problem is, you could put the whole Norwood City School System in it. You know,
probably could.
in one building there, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just too hard, it's too huge.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, we told them we bring him here, I'll get with Kathy Christopherson and Dave again to see how they're doing now that it's public, if there's anybody that we can help them with or anything like that, we'll try to act like a catalyst, but I'm not gonna try to act like an impetus for that, so, if we can help them, we will.
Good. We already did executive session. Anybody have any other needs to go into executive session for a second time?
No.
No, good. Any other new business or anything good for the good? of the org?
Just a question about one of the things we did when the audit was being done for us last time was keeping track of what's going on with our existing pilots. And we haven't had any reports, at least I haven't seen, on what's going on, because according to our pilots, they're supposed to send you information.
I send those out at January 1st.
Okay, not till January.
Not until January because, and then they have until March to get the information because by March 31st, I have to do the Paris report. But going forward, what I'm going to do is at the March board meeting, I will give you all the information. You guys will look at it and approve it before I actually submit it to the comptroller's office.
Well, if I remember right though, when we met with the auditor, more than just once a year, we should be keeping track of what's going on with the pilots. And if we talked about having a report, I think we were talking quarterly in the beginning. We were going to get a report just to see how they're doing. Have they hired the people like they're supposed to according to our agreements and things like that.
We'll do that.
Right.
That's,
Yeah.
So, because that would be one of the things he was looking for before for us to do to keep track of what's going on with our pilots.
you want us to do a quarterly report on how the pilots are
Well,
performing versus our expectations versus their contract.
I'd ask the rest of the members, do you want quarterly or do you want semi-annually? I
Well,
think
definitely at least quarterly, because weren't they behind on their payments at one time?
Oh,
Nobody was
God.
paying anything.
Right, yeah.
We'll do it
hopefully
quarterly.
we'll-
It'll help me anyways, it'll help
hopefully
me learn about it.
Yeah, we're here anyway.
That's fine, that'll be great for this.
That one requires 2 signatures.
We can develop a smaller questionnaire type thing that we can either contact them and ask them to fill it out or call them and say, hey.
We'll get with Steve and we can figure out exactly what makes the most
So
sense.
one of the other things that we're supposed to do is site visits.
Is site visits, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, right now, you're not talking 50 projects, you're talking.
I'll get out to them all, but I've been out in all the communities, so driving to these won't bother me at all, I'm honestly, for sure.
Right, I mean, the solar projects, you'll be able to look at them.
That's
And
fine,
about
I'll visit, see what it's all about.
it. Because, you'd be able to see if they're still constructing or what they're doing.
Any update on the our wind farm in High Bridge in Guilford? Nothing.
Nothing as of yet. Paul was trying to get a hold of Chris Stanton, to kind of see where we're at and whatnot, so
I really want to figure out what the benefit is for it, because that was the first I've heard today that these don't have long-term residual benefits within the community. I didn't know that. So, I mean, I see people ones popping up around, and I didn't understand that. So I want to know more about that.
Is there any explanation why it's shut down or on hold? Is it a supply chain issues?
supply, yeah,
Or
supply
is
chain.
it does it have to do with the financial backers and people who are involved behind the
Yeah,
scenes?
you know, the current economy has not helped them at all, but I believe the governor has, put forth more incentives for these guys because, last year it would cost 1 million for one of the windmills, whereas this year it would cost them 2 million. So, and the supply chain also has, been affected by COVID and everything and the economy. So that's kind of what it's hinging on, so we were hoping, because it was supposed to be up and going by now. So hopefully soon.
Anything else for us?
Okay, need a motion to adjourn?
Corey seconds.
Okay, we'll vote.
Richard, I.
Raymond,
Corey, aye.
Bert and I, thank you very much, everybody, for your time today. I know we ran a little over, but I appreciate it.
Jeff, Mike, I was just hoping to get a few minutes, like, you've heard my speech. I'd like to know what